Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the Dixie Fire Incident Update. My name is Chris Bruno. I'm one of the public. This evening, you'll be hearing from various experts in their field, updating you on recent evacuations. This evening, please submit them in the comments section below. First, let me bring you the latest numbers regarding the Dixie Fire. The Dixie Fire is currently at 928,741 acres, with 59% containment. There are currently 4,809 personnel assigned to the speaker. Please welcome Incident Meteorologist Benjamin Bardis.
Here to Dixie Fire West Zone. So looking at the weather tonight, we've got an active weather pattern. We have seen in and around the Dixie Fire, mainly to the north and east, with those thunderstorms that have caused some gusts near the fire, but not at the fire yet. That's due to a low pressure system with a cold front that's going to be sweeping across the state here overnight. So with that system, as it approaches, it's kind of off the west coast right now. We expect more thunderstorms to occur overnight around the Dixie Fire and then push off to the north and east in the early morning to mid-morning hours tomorrow, with those storms clearing out around mid-morning. So with that, as always, if you hear a thunderstorm, thunder rolling in the distance, see some lightning, make sure you stay indoors. Any electronic devices that are plugged into a wall, you want to make sure that you don't have a power surge from a lightning strike, so be cognizant of that. So just typical thunderstorm kind of safety measures there. When it comes to fire weather, we're looking for erratic winds with these thunderstorms and possibly some lightning strikes. Obviously we're concerned about how those can start new fires or add to an already existing fire like the Dixie Fire. So that's what I'll be looking for as an incident meteorologist. But for yourself at home, make sure you please stay aware of what's going on as far as thunderstorm activity. There is a chance we could have some brief heavy downpours with these storms as well. Along roadways and whatnot can get kind of slick sometimes with those. So just be cognizant. The other big threat with this low pressure system that we're going to have is winds with the low as it moves through overnight tonight and through tomorrow morning. So we're looking for some gusty winds out of the southwest. Higher elevations can see gusts up to 40 miles per hour or so, where valleys will see less than that, but still a good push of southwesterly winds tonight and through tomorrow morning as this front sweeps through and pushes east of us. Things will calm down tomorrow afternoon. Winds will subside and we'll see weather clear. It'll still be a little gusty on Saturday, up to maybe 20 miles per hour or so in higher areas of higher elevation. And then we'll see weather clear out and calm down going into next week. Temperatures will be lower after this cold air moves in, but we are still expecting some dry air to return with minimum relative humidities getting down to around 15 to 20% or so early next week. So calmer, but still moving back to a dry pattern next week. And once again, please be paying attention to the weather tonight and keep yourself safe. Thank you.
Next, from the West Zone, Fire Behavior Analyst for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1.
Good evening. So as you heard from the incident meteorologist, we have some very dynamic weather coming in tonight. That's going to create some issues with the fire overnight as it develops and then going in tomorrow morning. So we're looking out for those thunderstorms building over the fire, especially on this top part. As they build up, they'll bring air into it, and then as they mature and collapse, they'll push air out in 360 degrees. That could pose problems on many areas of the top part of the fire. The southwest wind that we'll start seeing tomorrow morning will want to move the fire in that southwest direction, moving up into Lassen County, going up towards Little Valley in that direction. So one of the things we will see is we'll see those stronger winds surfacing. The trees are a little bit thinner, there's lighter fuel, so we'll want to move a little bit faster. Spotting is still an issue for us. So as we see those high winds, we start seeing increased spotting as it continues on. On the side here down in the 44 near Old Station, the fire is slowly moving that direction. The big threat would be is if we see a collapsing thunder cell where it goes wind 360 degrees, it has that potential to move that closer to Old Station. Right now, it's just kind of slowly moving that direction in a flanking fire, which is good. We're not seeing that main head run towards Old Station, but there is still that potential throughout the night. And then tomorrow, what we're looking for is those winds calms down. We hopefully will be able to get in there and have better advantage on the fire, especially when we get some of those lighter fuels and those grass meadows as we start getting up into the thinner fuels up north.
From the West Zone, Operations Section Chief for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1, Chief Tony Brunel.
Good evening. My name is Tony Brownell from CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1. I'm Deputy Operations on the Dixie West Zone. So I'm going to start down here in Highway 70 in the Butte Meadows area. This is what we call Branch 1, 5, and 7. Pretty much from Highway 36 down to Highway 70, where what we call mop-up control. No issues in there at all lately. Just getting all the visible smokes we can, no issues. Branch 9 is the Highway 32, 36, and 89 area. We were having some issues here a few days ago. It's looking really good now. One thing about this wind, it is actually making it easier for this bottom half of the fire. We're mopping up very well. As you guys know, Branch 19 up here in the Old Station area was very active today. It started off this morning about 9 o'clock. It started to pick up in fire behavior and started making runs towards Highway 44. So it did cross Highway 44. It's right next to Old Station right now, the town community of. It's so close right now. We have every bit of piece of equipment we have in there protecting structures that are suited for that thing. For right now, we also have dozers, aircraft, and all kinds of other equipment out there fighting this fire, trying to keep it in check. But when we get weather conditions like we have in fire behavior, it's very dangerous to be directly on the fire line. So we are making some effort to go off to the side of it and on the top of it to try to box it in. It did moderate in fire behavior a little bit this afternoon, so we were able to go direct on it between where it was on Prospect Mountain to Highway 44, and we also started working a bigger line around Old Station. We've been in Old Station for about 2 weeks, masticating, clearing around all the structures, all the different communities in there, the subdivisions. We have a good buffer around that. Aircraft are boxing it in with retardant drops on all sides today, making it fireproof as best we can. We'll fight as hard as we can in there to save your structures. The fire is actually up in it made about a 9-mile run today. So it was running about 2 to 3 miles an hour. That is hard to keep pace with a fire that big. So we are making efforts. We're adjusting our plan for tomorrow to get on top of this thing and on the side of it, box it in. When the weather starts calming down a little bit, we'll get really aggressive on it. We'll go directly on the fire line and get it in check. Branch 16, even though we had a lot of wind on it today, it held in place. The California National Guard came in yesterday, and we had a lot of boots on the ground in there securing that, knowing this wind is coming. So we were able to hold this section very well. We're still getting a lot of calls for service in the Almanor and Westwood area. It's being expected. With that needle drop I explained the last few nights, it's falling out of trees, it's falling in hot spots, it's flaring up a little bit. Very little to worry about, but we're in there making sure nothing gets near the structures, and we're keeping it in check inside our existing fire lines. The Highway 36 corridor has been very quiet, no issues up there. Down in Janesville, we're making great progress in Janesville. We're almost ready to open that back up as soon as this bottom finger gets tied back in. So it is touching our dozer line on Highway 395. It had a wind gust come through there from a depleting cell, which caused downdrafts out of the cell. We had 46-mile-per-hour winds clocked at Doyle. It came through there. It had a little bit of light sprinkles. We had no issue there. We have line on all that fire from 395 all the way to Squaw Valley and tied into the old Walker fire. We're mopped up about 200 feet in. It's looking very good. It had a lot of wind on it today. Nothing moved out of it. That's very positive. Our biggest fight is going to be up here. It's going to be for quite a while. So be patient with us. Let us get in there. When Mother Nature calms down, we'll get aggressive and we'll get this thing in check. Have a good night.
We will now have a pre-recorded operational update from the East Zone.
All right, good evening, everybody. Ian Satterfield, Planning Ops Trainee. I'll go through what happened today and what our plan is for tomorrow. So I'll start out here in Oscar. Again, they continue to hold this line, working hard to gain depth. They're 150 to 200 feet in depth-wise and mopping up. So things are looking really good there. As we come around into Papa, crews, like I said yesterday, there's a hand line input in up here on top. It's held all day today. Good news is hopefully we're getting some rain over there. That'd be good news for the folks that are over there. And that line's holding well. We also had our large contingency of boots on the ground over here, gridding and really putting a hurt on this piece that's down here by 395 where it came into the flats. As we come around into QQ off of Dixie Mountain, crews are still up here on the hand line up top to Dixie Mountain, holding and working to mop up in there. And then as we come down to the dozer line and it wraps around down into Dixie, we have folks in there also working to gain some depth, get some mop up happening. Our Dixie structure that's embedded in here, they're working to gain some depth around the structures in there, mop up around structures. And then as we move out of Dixie Valley, heading up over Horton Ridge back down, dozer line is completing in. Crews continue to strengthen that line and work at opportunities to start mopping up and holding this piece on Horton Ridge. The contingency line piece that goes down through Horton Valley is complete, and as well as the dozer line piece of the contingency line that comes down the power line and ties back into the sugar fire. Crews are out here today with the feller bunchers and skidders doing some tree work in there to strengthen that line. That work is projected to be completed by end of shift today, if not halfway through tomorrow. As we work onto the Beckworth Genesee Road, crews are still masticating from the DP 624 back down towards Beckworth. Still have a couple more days of masticating. They're working on getting 50 to 100 feet of depth there. As we come back up on top on the Fire Here's Edge, up here by the Coyote Hills, everything's holding really well in there. Crews are just monitoring. And then as we come around onto Turner Ridge, again, crews are working to gain depth, hold that. Hasn't been any issue in quite some time, so we'll keep the good work in there. As we come around into Romeo, again, they're probably 150 feet, 200 feet mopped in. They're looking really good along that ridge. I would expect to see some black line back on the map tomorrow or the next day. Kind of bouncing back a little bit for our structure and contingency groups. They're still assisting with constructing that mastication on the line, as well as in the Dixie Valley there. As we pop over here to Division Uniform, again, the line both on top and below are completed, and their main focus is in that Devil's Punch Bowl where they're managing the risk and going direct. It sounds like they had a really good day in there. Not a whole lot of use of the rotor wing, but to me that's a sign that things are going well in there if they're not needing any water. As we jump over into Genesee, again, crews are maintaining and making sure we get good depth around all those structures, making sure we don't have any needle cast and that kind of issue where it could get into a structure, so it's being well monitored. As we come around in November, again, patrol, mop up, keeping an eye on this, the Wilcox cabins area, and then again back over here on the Dyer Mountain, just patrolling, fielding those calls from the public, and the same as we come down into WWXX. In addition to tomorrow, our folks from the west that have been helping us out, they're going to be pulling back their help and transitioning their stuff up to the west, which makes sense since they're having a tough time now. So now we're going to help them out by pushing up their resources. So Papa will be taking over, the bottom piece, and what we're going to do is we're going to disband the Dixie Structure Group, leave it what necessary resources need to happen here in Dixie Valley, and QQ will end up taking that piece over, and we're going to create the Honey Lake group, and they'll be up here to handle the 30,000 acre spot, which from the west are communicated down to us is in patrol status. So they'll be up there with resources, and they can also come down and assist either Papa or Oscar if we have any issues in there. So we're putting the plan together to fight against these tough weather conditions and tough firefighting conditions. End of report.
Next, we will hear from Lassen County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Dean Groudon.
All right, good evening, everyone. I want to first give updates on evacuation warnings and orders. We did just a few minutes ago issue some new orders. in Lassen County. It's going to be the western portion of Lassen County, north of Highway 44. And the primary communities affected right now are Little Valley, Dixie Valley, and then that area surrounding Little Valley. There's that Loomis Cabin Road east of Little Valley. I know there's a number of ranches and residences out there. Those are all included in the new evacuation orders that were just issued. There are deputies working on knocking on doors in that area right now. We already sent the emergency alerts out. I know communications are a challenge in that area, so we're trying to get out ahead of it and get to everybody's doors and get them to safety as soon as we can. So I mentioned the communities, but there's a large section of land out there too that's included in those orders. I'd encourage everyone, if you questioning whether or not your portion are included in those orders, go to community.zonehaven.com and you can type in your address and check. There are also going to be some warnings issued. If they haven't yet, they're going to be issued within minutes, and that's going to be additional areas north, northwest, and east of that Little Valley area. So everybody, please be paying attention to those warnings and orders. The evacuation center for those people evacuating from Little Valley is in Bernie. It's a Red Cross shelter operated. It's shelter operated by Red Cross. It's at the Life Assembly Church on Main Street in Bernie. And if you have questions about shelter availability, you can call Lassen County Health and Social Services at 530-251-8128, and I'll answer your questions. If people in that area, those mandatory evacuation areas, need transportation or help evacuating, I ask that you call our Sheriff's Office dispatch at 530-257-6121 so we can get you the help that you need. Today we were able to reduce some orders to warnings, primarily Milford and Hurlong area. And again, go to community.zonehaven.com to verify that, but most of those residents, I'm sure, have already returned home. But we do want people to stay diligent. The crews are still working up on the ridge above Milford, Hurlong, in that area. With the kind of fire behavior we've seen, their warnings are there for a reason. We want people paying attention. We want people ready to leave in case something happens similar to what happened in Janesville. We could have a spark or an ember, cast out from the main body of the fire far away from the lines and cause additional problems. So the warnings are still there for a reason. We want people paying attention. So Lassen County, it's 4,800 square miles. We're a small agency, the Sheriff's Office, and we have people spread around our county, and people in numerous communities have been affected by this fire. But what that does to us is it really draws down our resources. Right now, I sent pretty much our whole night shift and portions of our day shift to that Little Valley area to get those people to safety. So our top priority is always, protection of life and then property. And those are the things that the calls for service that are going to get priority for us right now. And I just need people to be patient. But some of the lower priority calls might take a while for us to respond to, or we might have to handle them by phone. But just be patient with us. We're doing everything we can to keep people safe. Last thing I want to do is recognize some of the, what I believe are the unsung heroes working behind the scenes. And right now, those are the personnel working in our 911 dispatch centers, in all the counties affected by the fire. In Lassen County, that's the Sheriff's Office dispatch, CHP dispatch, and a Susanville Interagency Fire Center. Those people are working hard every day, taking those calls for service, which have been, enormous. That's a huge workload, and I just want to recognize and thank them for their work. So I just want people, obviously this fire really has made a big run today, and it's starting to affect a lot of new communities. And like I talked about with the warnings and orders, I really want people in northern Lassen County, in that northwest region of Lassen County, paying attention. I want you to pay attention to the orders and warnings and alerts, press information as it comes out, and follow the instructions that are given. Thank you, be safe, and God bless.
Our next speaker will be Agency Administrator for Lassen National Forest, Deb Bumpus.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to note that you all have noticed that we've had some significant weather today, and we have made it through that so far. The firefighters out there were well prepared. We've been given good briefings in the morning from the meteorologist and the fire behavior analyst. And so I think it's really important to note that when things like this happen, that fire can go every direction. And so on the days that we say the fire is not close to a certain community and the next day that it is, weather conditions like this are what causes that. So be cognizant of those changes on a daily basis and make sure that you're safe and ready to move if you need to. I think the other thing that to be aware of is that we're going through some transitions here. We'll have some new teams on both the east side and west side of the incident. And the important thing during those transitions is the clear communications between all parts of the team and the agency administrators, and that is being done on a very consistent basis. We're very comfortable with the transitions. We've done it since July the 13th, or yes, July the 13th. So the other thing that's very important is just ensuring that we have a continuity of efforts, and those don't change from team to team. So we will continue to give you the updates that you need. You'll get the information that you're asking for through these Facebook Live events. Tonight, there's a lot of activity up there on the north side today, and potentially continuing on with this weather. So just be vigilant, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Our final speaker for the West Zone, Incident Management Team 1, Deputy Incident Commander, Chief Chris Waters.
Alrighty, good evening, everybody. Chris Waters, Deputy IC here at the Incident Management Team 1 here on the Dixie Fire. Really good briefing tonight. I want to highlight a few things. If nothing else, the Dixie continues to throw us curveballs. The story of the Dixie is about every 4 to 5 days, Mother Nature throws us a curveball, and we get big fire growth, difficulty of control, and things just don't seem to line up for us. That's again another problem for today, and it's really easy to focus in on some of the problems that we're having to face, and you know, this fire has been a long-term event, so to speak. So you know, there are some things that are positive that are starting to kind of tip slightly in our favor. There's a little more black on the map, a little less red, a little less space for those firefighters that are assigned to this incident to work in. The weather is slowly starting to move in our direction, although today is an exception. The days are getting shorter. The sun angle is starting to drop off a little bit in the horizon. Temperatures are going down, and then the hope is we start to actually see fall arrive and give us a break. You know, this fire is really, and I can't come up with another word, but slog. This fire has been about a 55 to 60-day slog. And it's been a slog for everybody that is really involved with it. Firefighters working here, long days, multiple trips back to the incident, and not a lot of time off. But the slog is also a part of the community. The community itself has experienced a slog. The people who live here, who have seen this fire ravage their community, damage their homes, damage the landscape, okay, get them out of their homes, keep them away from their communities, and then also damage their businesses and their way of life. The appreciation from us to you has to go out because of the support that you've given us in the community by, number one, when we ask you to leave and evacuate for your safety, you do so. You're patient with us, and I really see it in the community. Everywhere I go around here, folks are offering to pay for a cup of coffee, and everybody seems to be extending an appreciation. So on behalf of everybody that's here on the Dixie Fire, I would like to extend an appreciation to you and the community. You know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It still may be a ways out. The fire is still continuing to move, but slowly but surely, we're going to continue to make progress. Thank you.
Most of the questions tonight were answered during the presentation from our speakers. We have a few of those outstanding questions. We'd like to bring back up Operations Section Chief for the West Zone, Chief Tony Brunwell.
We get some questions about fire spread in the areas up north where the main activity was today. So some of them were Singletown, Viola, up near Old Station. We talked about Old Station. We've known Old Station was going to be a threat for several days. It was out here in the park. We knew it was hung up in the park, and it was going to get its alignment with the fuels and topography and the weather, and it was going to come out of there. We always hoped that it wouldn't, but hope is not a plan. We hope, but we plan for the worst, and we've been planning for the worst up there for several weeks, clearing around that area and make sure it's safe. There is not a lot of infrastructure around there as houses, but we concentrate on there. There's another subdivision just off the side of it. We've been in there prepping it. We have engines and dozers in there working that area, and we have engines and dozers working in the Old Station. We're doing everything we can to keep that fire out of there, but it is very close. As far as Singletown, Viola, and going up north, this wind event's going to end tomorrow. So the fire conditions are going to moderate, and we're going to be able to get around it. But Mother Nature always has a vote. So with the multiple years of drought, the field conditions being as dry as they are, we're getting long-range spotting up to 6 miles, which is about a few years ago, that was unheard of. And now we're getting these conditions that are making it very difficult to fight the fire. I mentioned earlier, this is burning so intense we couldn't get right on the fire line. When you have 30 to 40 to 50-foot flame lanes coming off, we cannot get that close to without causing injuries to our firefighters. So we back off a little bit, we get on the flanks, and we go up the flanks and try to cut it off. It takes a little more time, and we're not going to be as successful as cutting the head off. It's still going to move, but we know the head's going to sit down at some point, and we're going to be able to get around it. So we realize this map's a little bit outdated, but it was so windy up there, and the weather was so bad, we couldn't get our infrared ships up there to get a good, accurate map up there. So tomorrow you have a lot better map and have an idea where that fire's at. I know it's a little confusing when you're looking at it, but we'll make it a little bit clearer tomorrow night. Thank you.
We'd like to thank all the presenters for their information. If you would like to find the evacuation maps for Plumas and Lassen counties, you may find those listed on the respective websites. Incident updates will be provided at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. We will continue to provide the Facebook and YouTube Dixie Incident Update every evening, and we invite you to join us tomorrow for the live stream briefing of Great Basin Team 1. That live stream may be found on CAL FIRE Lassen MODOC Facebook page, the Plumas National Facebook page, or the Lassen National Forest Facebook page. In the meantime, you may go to InstaWeb and search under the Dixie incident for the latest information. After this presentation, a QR code will appear that will link you with the evacuation maps. You may also go to CAL FIRE's homepage at www.fire.ca.gov. Please continue to follow social media platforms for the Lassen National Forest, Plumas National Forest, and CAL FIRE LMU. We appreciate your time this evening, and thank you for joining us.